India has this really comprehensive support system for people with disabilities, but how does it actually work? What does the law even say? And who are the professionals on the ground helping out every single day? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break it all down for you.
But first, before we dive into the details, let's start with a big question. I want you to just think about this for a second. What if the biggest challenge, the biggest disability, isn't a person's physical or mental condition at all, but the invisible walls and obstacles that society puts in their way? Let's just keep that idea in the back of our minds as we go through this. All right, let's dive right in. At the absolute heart of India's modern approach is the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act. You'll hear it called the RPWD Act from 2016. And listen, this wasn't just some minor update. No, this was a complete fundamental rethinking of what disability even is.
And this single idea right here, this is the monumental shift. The law basically says, hey, the real issue isn't the impairment itself. The real problem is the barriers we as a society create. That's what prevents people from being able to participate fully and equally. It's a huge change in perspective, moving away from just a medical problem to seeing it as a social one.
And here it is, the official definition right from the law. Now notice, it's not just about an impairment. The key word here is interaction. It's about the interaction between that impairment and all those societal barriers. So what's it really saying? According to this act, a disability is basically the result of living in a world that wasn't built for you.
And let me tell you, this law is incredibly broad and super inclusive. It is definitely not limited to what we might traditionally think of when we hear the word disability. It covers this huge spectrum, everything from physical and sensory conditions like issues with movement or vision, all the way to intellectual disabilities, mental illness, and even very specific blood disorders like thalassemia.
Okay, so having a legal definition is great, right? But what do these barriers we're talking about actually look like in day-to-day life? Well, as we're about to see, they often link together, creating this vicious cycle that can be incredibly tough to break. This cycle of exclusion really shows you how it all works. I mean, think about it. It can start with something as seemingly simple as poor infrastructure. No ramps, no accessible buses. Well, that directly leads to limited education. I mean, how are you even supposed to get to school? From there, with less education, of course, you're going to have fewer job opportunities. And then, layered over all of that, you have social stigma, these attitudes and wrong ideas that create these invisible walls. You see how each barrier just feeds the next one? It creates this loop that just keeps reinforcing itself, and it can deeply affect a person's confidence and their ability to just be a part of society. So, how do we break that cycle? That's the big question, isn't it? Well, it all starts with building a really strong, dedicated support system. And the foundation, the absolute bedrock of that entire system, is education. But let's be super clear about what we mean by special education. It is so much more than just a separate classroom. It's really a whole philosophy. It's a personalized approach where the teaching methods, the materials, the support, everything is tailored to a student's unique needs to help them really reach their full potential. And this kind of support, it's not a one-person job, not at all. It comes from these highly trained, specialized teams that are actually built around the specific needs of each and every individual. This comparison really shows you just how tailored that support really is. So, for example, for someone with autism spectrum disorder, the team might have special educators and speech therapists focusing on communication. But for a physical disability, it's a completely different team. You're talking physiotherapists, specialists in things like walkers or wheelchairs, all focused on mobility. It's proof that there is absolutely no one-size-fits-all approach. Okay, so we've got all these different professionals, all these specialized teams. That brings up a really critical question, right? How do you make sure that the quality of care is high and, just as importantly, consistent all across the country? Well, that's where the Rehabilitation Council of India, or the RCI, comes in. You can really think of the RCI as the guardian of the entire system. Its whole job is to oversee, regulate, and make absolutely sure that everything is operating at the highest possible standard. So, what does this guardian actually do? Well, it pretty much boils down to these key things. The RCI standardizes all the training courses for these professionals, making sure everyone learns to the same high standard. It also keeps a central register of everybody who is qualified, so you know who the certified experts are. And most importantly, all of this works together to ensure that every single person with a disability gets high-quality, ethical care.
So, we've seen how there's this really robust legal framework and a professional support system that's been put into place. The law itself has completely redefined disability, and there's a whole ecosystem of trained experts who are there to provide support.
And that brings us right back to where we started. The system is there and provides the tools. But breaking down those societal barriers, the stigma, the lack of awareness, the inaccessible spaces, well, that's a job for all of us. The question isn't just about the system anymore, it's about us. So I'll leave you with this. What will you do to help break those barriers?